with quite a few times in media conferences that we have had. And the answer that we have given, that I've given, was that to the extent that the Commission could find areas where it could prepare and hand to the President an interim report or interim reports, the Commission would not be opposed to doing that in principle. However, what I had said was that we have work streams in terms of the work of the Commission. There's an ESCOM work stream, there's a Transnet work stream, there's a Denel work stream, there's a PRASA work stream, and there are other work streams, there's a Busasa work stream. There are certain personalities that you find to be to feature in a number of work streams. Now, if I want to say I'm going to do an interim report, for example, on ESCOM, I might have to make a finding involving those personalities or somebody who features in a number of work streams. And if I go ahead and make that finding in an interim report, I might disqualify myself in a way from hearing him or her in regard to another work stream. So I said that those are some of the challenges. So you find that certain names are mentioned under ESCOM, others under Transnet, as well as elsewhere. And it is better that one should make findings in regard to work streams where there are different people who straddle work streams when one has had all of them. So that's point number one. Point number two, as things presently stand, we are about about 8 months away from, or 9 months away from or finishing or getting to the end of the lifespan of the Commission. I would prefer to devote all my attention and focus to trying to finish the work that needs to be done, rather than try and do interim reports with regard to what we have done, because that also takes some time. That's what I would like to do. But certainly much earlier on, if it was possible to do interim reports, I was open to that idea. So I think as things stand, the circumstances don't permit, but I said to the legal team and the investigation team already, I think in 2018, if they pick up any area where they think I can do an interim report, they should make proposals to me. So there is that challenge. But what I can say to everybody, the entire Commission is focused on finishing its work within the lifespan that has been given to it by the High Court. We are doing everything we can. We are working flat out to try and finish the work that we can finish. In terms of financial implications, well, the financial implications that relate to the Commission really relate to the fact that our country, even before coronavirus, was going through a difficult economic situation, and the coronavirus and the lockdown just made things worse. Therefore, in terms of the budget, in terms of what the Commission can get from National Treasury and the Department of Justice, there are challenges, and we understand the situation. But what I can say, again, is what I said earlier on. I believe that the executive, including the President and the Ministry of Justice, as well as actually National Treasury, the DG there, I think that they are supportive of the Commission. They are trying the best that they can. There are challenges here and there, but I think that there are attempts to try and give support to the Commission as much as possible. We all have to work within a very limited budget, and we have to do the best we can with what we get. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CJ. I'm handing over to Graham. You can ask your question, Graham, please. Graham, are you still there?
Yes, hello, can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, I can hear you now, Graham. Thank you.
Fantastic. My question relates to the following, and my colleague Clement Manyatela had already asked specifically about the interim report. But I'm also looking to ask specifically to the Deputy Chief Justice, how confident is he with the time running out? I think that's a big question for everybody. There's limited time left, and how does he feel personally with the time that's left? And secondly, where can we expect the specific testimony to pick up from? Is it still going to be PRASA related if things get underway from the end of June, early July? And then very lastly, also just looking for a little bit of clarity, please, Deputy Chief Justice, how many more witnesses do you, foresee coming before the inquiry in terms of the public hearings? Do you have perhaps a figure at this stage? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Graham. If I don't answer all your questions, you must just remind me at the end of my answer. One, starting with the last question, I can't give you an answer now on how many witnesses we are going to get. What I can tell you is that I have said to the legal team and the investigation team, but particularly the legal team, I have said, given the short time that is left, we must prioritize. So we are going to have to hear a smaller number of witnesses than otherwise would have been the case. But at this stage, they are going through, there are certain witnesses that are ready, that have been identified and that are ready, but they are not the only ones. The process of identifying others and sifting, because there was at some stage quite a long list, and which was not tenable. I said, you go back, you sift, you look at the importance of the evidence that each witness wants to bring. So I can't give you a number in terms of witnesses, but we are doing the best we can to make sure that we don't leave out really important witnesses and also implicated persons that need to be to come before the commission. How confident am I that we are going to finish within the time? I can simply say, when I look at the commitment of the commission's team, I think that we are going to really work very hard to try and finish. We want to finish. The will and determination to finish within this time is there. But at the same time, I must emphasize that we don't want a situation where anybody can say, in our determination to finish, we left out important things that we needed to deal with. I have emphasized to the legal team and the investigation team that as far as possible, there must be nothing that we leave out which we didn't apply our minds to say, should it be left out, should it not? If we leave it out, what are the reasons? Have we got sound reasons? So we want to strike a balance between that, but there's a determination to try and finish within this time. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, DCJ. The question about whether the Commission is going to start with PRASA when it resumes end of June and July.
Oh, well, the hearings, well, the resumption of the operations when the personnel of the commission return to the workplace is the 15th of June. But the resumption of hearings, at this stage, I can't be more specific than simply saying I think it's likely to be the last week of July or the first week of, last week of June or first week of July. The reason I say that is because there are still things that need to be sorted out. And I said to you that with regard to the regulations, for example, it's not very clear to us that witnesses may travel between provinces to come to the hearing of the commission. Insofar as we talk about witnesses who are from within the district of Johannesburg, it looks like there is no problem. But insofar as we may be talking about witnesses who must travel from one province to Gauteng, cross provincial borders as well as metropolitan borders, it does look to us that there still needs to be some work done in terms of the regulations and maybe the directions of the Minister of Justice. So all of those things need to be looked at, because we may be having certain witnesses that we might want to come and give evidence on at the beginning of the hearings when we resume. But if they might not be able to travel, we might have to adjust. But chances are that it's going to be either the last week of June or at the latest, the first week of July.
Thank you so much. This is Jay. We've got Genevieve on the line and also Zen after Genevieve. Genevieve, over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, DCJ. It's Genevieve.
Good afternoon.
It's Genevieve from the Business Day.
Yeah.
We're talking about time running out and financial impact, and then you say there are issues about witnesses traveling between provinces. Is the Commission not prepared to do the questioning of witnesses over a Zoom call like we're doing now? Do you feel that the witness has to be there in person? You know, like you're saying, with the time frame not being too long, 8 to 9 months, would it not be easier to do it that way? Or do you feel it's prudent that the person comes and sits in front of you and the legal team? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would prefer that a witness comes to the hearing in the normal way. I'm not excluding completely the possibility of using Zoom, but I would have to apply my mind probably if we had to get to that situation. But the fact that we are allowed to have hearings the way we had hearings before, except that now one has to limit the numbers of people who come to the venue of the hearing, and various protocol or health measures have to be put in place. Except for that, I would prefer that they come to the hearing and they give evidence at the hearing. So I think that's what I would like to happen. I would like to avoid the Zoom hearings if at all possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, DCJ. Zen Mate, your hand was up. Will you please ask the question?
Good afternoon, Judge Zondo.
Good afternoon, Zen.
Yes, Zen Mate here. One of my questions, I have two questions. The first question is, to what extent will the Commission be focusing on the private sector actors that were complicit in the state capture crimes, the banks, the auditors, and such? And the second question is, I remember when the Commission had begun, there was an intention by the Commission to include the public's voice in what would be its final findings, who bear the brunt of the impact of state capture. And I guess now with this refocusing and the Commission's time running out and the financial implications of keeping the Commission running, there's certain priorities that have to be made by the Commission, which is completely understandable. But to what extent will the voice of the public and attempts to include them in the final findings be made.